So, South Africa, you know the one. The country that gave us Charlize Theron, Lekker Biltong, and, well, a rather complicated history. Apartheid, yeah, that was them. But then, 1994 happened. Freedom, democracy, Nelson Mandela. The world breathed a sigh of relief. They did it. And South Africa, to its credit, didn't just say, okay, we're good now, bye. They decided to become a voice for others. South Africa, having experienced some of the worst human rights abuses, takes this stuff seriously. Their foreign policy isn't just about trade deals and handshakes, it's about standing up, sometimes very loudly, for international justice. They remember what it's like. So when they see things happening elsewhere that remind them of their past, oh, they're going to say something. Take recent events, for example. South Africa took a case against Israel to the International Court of Justice. They accused Israel of violating the Genocide Convention regarding Palestinians. Heavy stuff. And the ICJ, they didn't just dismiss it, they issued provisional measures, basically saying, South Africa, you might have a point here. It's a nation trying to use its painful past to shape a better future, not just for itself. So, while South Africa is out there fighting the good fight internationally, what's happening back home? Well, they've been busy making laws. Lots of them. Because, a country that's serious about human rights needs serious paperwork to back it up. 2024 was a big year for the printing presses in Parliament. The idea is to strengthen human rights, to fix the cracks in the system. First up, the Climate Change Act, signed on July 23, 2024. This is a big deal, people. South Africa, a country heavily reliant on coal, is saying, okay, we need to change. The act aims to move towards a low-carbon economy, to hit those Paris Agreement targets. Then there's the National Health Insurance Act, or NHI, signed on May 16, 2024. The goal? Universal healthcare for all South Africans. Imagine that. Everyone gets decent medical care regardless of how much money they have. The Basic Education Amendment Act became law in September 2024. This makes pre-primary education compulsory. It bans corporal punishment. It also protects undocumented children's right to education. Then, on May 24, 2024, the National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Act was enacted. Lots of new tools, but now they need to actually use them. Now let's talk about something less shiny, xenophobia. It's a fancy word for a very ugly thing, hating foreigners. And in South Africa, a country built by migrants and refugees throughout history, it's a painful irony. The May 29, 2024, general elections really brought this issue to the forefront. Anti-immigrant rhetoric was apparently a popular campaign strategy for some. Human Rights Watch noted that while 2024 might have seen fewer actual incidents of violence compared to some previous horror years, the talk was still toxic. Political candidates were out there blaming foreigners for everything. Xenowatch, an organization that tracks these things, reported 59 xenophobic incidents in 2024. These incidents led to nearly 3,000 people being displaced. Imagine forced out of your home because of where you come from. NGOs, the good folks on the ground, reported unlawful arrests. They saw asylum seekers being deported, sometimes without proper process. This led to legal action against the Department of Home Affairs. There was a small glimmer of hope, though. On September 13, 2024, a high court stepped in. It granted an interim prohibition. It's a battle for hearts and minds, not just courtrooms. Alright, let's switch gears to another incredibly tough topic. Gender-based violence, GBV. South Africa has some of the most progressive laws in the world when it comes to women's rights. On paper, it looks amazing, equality for all. But then you look at the reality on the ground, and it's horrifying. Violence against women and girls hasn't just persisted. In some ways, it feels like it's getting worse. South Africa has a truly terrible distinction. It has one of the highest rates of rape and femicide in the world. This isn't just a statistic. These are women, girls, whose lives are shattered or stolen. Every day, there are new stories, new tragedies. The police statistics from April to June 2024 paint a grim picture. Compared to the same period in 2023, there were increases. Increases in murders of women, increases in attempted murders, increases in assaults, increases in rapes. Now remember that National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Act? The one enacted on May 24, 2024? That's supposed to be a big part of the answer. But for the women and girls living in fear right now, that hope can't come soon enough. Section 5, Classrooms and Clinics, the Fight for Basic Dignity. Let's talk about kids and health, the basics, right? Education, healthcare, the foundations of a decent life. In South Africa, the report card here is mixed. Take education. The 2024 Education Facility Management System report dropped some worrying news. It found that 287 schools in the country still relied on pit latrines. Yes, you heard that right, pit latrines. In 2024, we're talking about places where kids go to learn, to build their futures, and they don't even have safe, proper toilets. It's not just undignified, it's dangerous. And tragically, that danger became a reality. On April 18, 2024, a 3-year-old boy died. He fell into a pit latrine at his school, a 3-year-old. The Basic Education Amendment Act we mentioned earlier, it does good things. But it doesn't fully address the rights of students with disabilities, for example. How can you learn about the stars when you're worried about falling into a hole? Section 6. Speaking truth to power, the peril of human rights defenders. So, you've got all these problems, right? Xenophobia, gender-based violence, issues in education and healthcare. Who speaks up for the people affected? Who fights for change? Human rights defenders, activists, community leaders. These are the brave folks who stand up and say, this is not right. But in South Africa, like in many places, speaking truth to power can be dangerous. Really dangerous. It's not like they get a thank you card and a fruit basket. Often they get threats, intimidation, violence, or worse. Take Abalali Besimyandolo. It's a movement of shack dwellers, people living in informal settlements. They advocate for basic rights, land, housing, dignity, things that are actually in that fancy South African constitution. But their fight has come at a terrible cost. They've faced serious threats. Their leaders have been targeted. Amnesty International reported that 25 activists from Abalali Besimyandolo have been killed since the movement started. This isn't some far-flung dictatorship we're talking about. This is democratic South Africa. Section 7, 30 Years Free, Democracy's Journey and Its Crossroads. April 27, 2024. That was a big day. It marked the 30th anniversary of democracy in South Africa. 30 years since the end of apartheid. 30 years since those iconic images of long queues of people of all races voting for the first time. It was a moment of incredible hope, not just for South Africa but for the whole world. A miracle transition, some called it. From a pariah state to a beacon of freedom, it's worth remembering that joy, that sense of possibility. Because, well, adulting is hard. And so is building a democratic nation. The journey since 1994 has been a journey. Immense progress, no doubt about it. A constitution that's hailed as one of the most progressive globally. Institutions designed to protect human rights. The end of legal racial discrimination. Freedom of speech, movement, association. These are massive achievements, things that people literally died for. But, and it's a big but, those deep-seated inequalities, the legacy of centuries of colonialism and decades of apartheid, turns out, they don't just vanish with a new flag and a new anthem. Section 8. A world in turmoil. South Africa's stand amidst global crises. Now, it's easy to look at South Africa's challenges and think, wow, they've got a lot on their plate, and they do. But here's the thing. They're not alone in this struggle. The fight for human rights is a global one. And frankly, the world stage is looking a bit messy right now. Amnesty International released its 2025 annual report around May. Perfect timing for our chat. And let me tell you, it's not exactly light beach reading. Their Secretary General Agnes Callamard basically said, we're in a global human rights crisis. The report highlights a worldwide rise in authoritarian practices. Governments are getting bolder about clamping down on dissent. Freedom of expression, shrinking, freedom of association and peaceful assembly, under attack, media outlets banned, NGOs disbanded, critics jailed, human rights defenders criminalized. It's like a how to be a dictator for dummies guide is trending globally. And then there's the Trump effect, as Amnesty calls it, accelerating destructive trends, emboldening anti-rights movements, intensified attacks on women's rights, on LGBTI communities. Section 9. The long walk continues, an unfinished quest for equality. So, what's the takeaway from all this? South Africa, what a place. It's like that friend who is amazing at giving advice, who sees the big picture for everyone else. But their own life is kind of a beautiful, complicated mess. On the one hand, you have this nation, a champion for human rights on the global stage, taking bold action, speaking uncomfortable truths. waving the flag for justice and international law. You want to stand up and applaud, seriously, but then, you look domestically, and you see the shadows, the persistent painful challenges, xenophobia, gender-based violence that's off the charts, kids learning in schools with pit latrines, people dying because of it, hunger, an overburdened healthcare system, human rights defenders being killed for doing their job. It's a stark contrast, a painful dichotomy. The gap between the promise and the reality can feel enormous.